This would be Tuesday, September 16th. We're going to be going over Caterpillar and some other learnifications. But first, we're going to do the bell work. Let's focus on the bell work to make things a little bit easier. All right. So for this one, as we go through, you're going to have to tell me the nouns, pronouns, all the things that go into it, and then all those little bits. If you mess up, of course, your mistakes will have an impact on those sounded like sounds of happiness. Birds, are you volunteering?
Yeah.
I like it. Up you step. You can take your notebook with you if you want, if you think it'll help you.
Yeah, use your notebook because I don't want my ears to
I
go.
don't either. I feel the same. Alright, so we'll start with label the parts of speech. We'll go down the list, the nouns, pronouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. Alright. You ready? Me too. Don't be nervous. Nouns. Do you have any in there?
Caterpillar and ring.
Nicely done. And pronouns.
I'm clapping.
I'm not sure it's applause worthy yet. She found 2 nouns. Any pronouns?
No.
Correct. Verbs.
Ignored.
Is correct. Okay. And adjectives.
Hungry and little.
So far, so good. Adverbs.
Bravely.
It describes you also. How fitting. Nicely done. So that takes us to for the verb. What was our verb?
Ignored.
And is that an action verb or a boring verb?
Action.
It's correct. For the adjectives, you have to draw the arrow to the word. By the way, if any of yours are wrong, change them. That's where chlearning comes in. If I haven't explained chlearning, it's the cheating and the learning. So you're cheating but learning at the same time, which is better than just being dumb. And that's where you just sit there and stare at it and don't change it. I'd much rather you chlearn than be dumb. All right, Adam.
You're the one that my brother read the quote, work smarter, not harder from.
I've used that one, but I don't know if you got it from me.
Oh.
But sure, I'll claim it. I invented that one. All right, back to you, dear. Ready? Your first adjective, hungry. What word is it modifying?
Caterpillar.
Is correct. And your next adjective, little. What word is it modifying?
Caterpillar.
Is correct. And then adverbs. What word is it modifying?
Ignored.
Is correct. Nicely done, Burns. You have survived. And Thistle had nothing to worry about the entire time.
I knew that she would get it.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Proud of you. Burns, not Thistle. All right, and then from there, any questions as far as this goes? My goal is we'll do another one next week. Each week we're going to try and do one, and I'll try and make it slightly tougher. You will have questions on the quiz that connect to not this sentence, but as far as the magic lens. But I figure each week we'll practice, and I'll put like a question on the quizzes, and we'll see how you guys go from there. So eventually it'll become second nature, and by like the second semester, we can start introducing things like phrases and clauses and things like that, and your brains will be strong enough to not just melt when it occurs. York?
What's the?
The and a and are considered article adjectives. They're adjectives, they're just small enough that I don't bother with them. That's why I put them in red, because they're the adjectives. I just separate them.
Oh.
So eventually you'll have to know them, and I figure if I just keep putting them up there and keep putting them in red, eventually, like subliminally, it'll sink in. We'll see what happens. Harper!
So, I don't understand how last year we only had like 5 classes, and I know one of them was an hour and a half long, but we still would have been a class short.
Yeah,
I don't
think about
understand
that
how
too.
we
I
can
don't
get
get
this far into the year and not put dates in the top left-hand corner of our assignments.
I mean,
We
why
had recess too.
was that?
Maybe recess.
Like, I feel like it's getting. Wait.
For the Caterpillar! We're in
I feel like
favor of
the
that.
school day is shorter this year.
Me too.
Now you can put the notebook to the side. We're done with that. And it should be on the, what is that, right-hand side?
Yeah.
The right hand.
The page.
Yes.
He's
Way,
left.
way to correct me with the exact same answer. For here, first off, what's a stanza? Because we talked about this before. Makes sure we're all smart. Ike?
It's like a paragraph in a poem.
Nice it up. It's a paragraph in a poem. Now, what makes things a little bit trickier, Adam, is we have to figure out how many stanzas we have in our poem Caterpillar. How many stanzas we have in the poem Caterpillar? But wait, says Adam, how am I supposed to know when it ends? Because there's no indentation. Because with paragraphs, you look for the indent. There's no indenting in here. Mind blown. So what do we look for if we're not looking for indents, Haley?
Spacing
You're leaving me hanging there.
between.
Are you asking me?
Space.
Are you still asking me?
Space.
Good job, Haley. Way to find the confidence. You're looking for the spaces because you don't look for indentations because poets are insane and they don't believe in indentation-y things. So, Adam, how many stanzas do we have in Caterpillar?
6.
Nicely done. 6! And so we have a total of 6 as we go through there. Now, just to test our abilities, Kyra, we go over one to the left where it says 1 of the 7 has somewhat to say. How many stanzas do we have on that one?
2.
Nicely done. I didn't say it was challenging. And then pencil, we'll go over one more to the left on Living Tenderly. And how many do we have on that one?
2.
Nicely done. So there. And so, Mr. Broviak, I can count to 2. Stop showing off. And that allows you to figure out sort of how the stanzas works, and we'll see how things go from there. Our first stanza, we're going to go through, read it once, then I'll read it, and then we're going to start figuring out who the speaker is and what's going on. My goal, as much like we did with 1 of the 7, is to analyze it and figure out what all is going on in the poem. Alright, so for that one, snail, because it's sort of like a caterpillar, we'll have you read the first stanza. That's you, snail.
Oh.
Good morning. It happens.
Under this loop of honeysuckle, a creeping colored caterpillar, I gnaw the fresh green hawthorn spray and nibble the leaf away.
Nicely done. Under this loop of honeysuckle, a creeping colored caterpillar, I gnaw the fresh green hawthorn spray, I nibble it leaf by leaf away. That's right! There is alliteration in there. I'm proud of you guys for noticing that without me having to say anything whatsoever. Wait, says Michaela. What is alliteration? That is a solid question. What is alliteration if we're trying to find an example of it that's going to be in there? Pecan? That's right. We did talk about it back when you guys had to do the project at the beginning of the year and you had to come up with an alliteration about someone else's name. I'm proud of you. That was a good reference, Pecan. But for the rest of us, what was that you had to come up with?
Words that start with the same word.
Nicely done, Pecan. You had to come up with multiple words all starting with the same letter, like Ike, ignores, itty, bitty, insects. Score, made it on the spot. So for here, we have an example of alliteration that's going to be in there. Elf.
Why do you make us read it if you're just going to reread it?
Because with poetry, reading it more than once helps beat it into you. And I've learned that oftentimes we read poetry one time, kids don't pay attention the first time it's read, and they go to their happy place. And then for some reason, reading it twice helps them understand it. Those things I've picked up over the years. I didn't hear you. What did you say the alliteration was?
Me?
Uh-huh.
A creeping colored caterpillar.
Nicely done. The creeping colored cat, and what sound gets repeated?
The sea.
Good job. Snail.
Isn't it like when if there's a vowel at the beginning of the word or in the middle of a word, wouldn't it be assonance?
It is.
Okay.
And we're
it's
eventually
just-
going to get to that one, but I must get brain melting. So I figured with the whole Ike thing, I wouldn't blow his mind yet. So technically it's assonance, but that's all right. You know, not alliteration, but Mr. Brovicast, I'm confused. It's okay. That's But back to here. We've, let's see, do you guys know what hawthorn spray is? It's what you shoot us with in that bottle. No, that's called water spray. Completely different. Hawthorn spray. Adam?
Isn't it like?
You're right, it is green.
But
You're right, it does grow outside. Nicely done.
I
You're
don't
right, it
know.
is something a caterpillar would eat.
I was
You're on
thinking
that
of
track.
something, but now when I actually think about my answer, it's ridiculous.
What were you thinking it was? A small man?
Well, my mom has like this perfume. Small hawthorn spray.
Ah,
So-
actually, that's completely wrong. Yeah, you're right. That was not the right answer. But that was a solid try. Can you think of anything that would be outdoors and green that a caterpillar would eat? Nicely done! It's a hawthorn spray. I actually put honeysuckle up there too, because that was the first one. Honeysuckle, is just another type of this plant type thing. And there are these little yellow things, and they're supposed to be, if you bite the flowers, they're supposed to taste like honey. And so you can just go around like pluck them off, and you can go, and then you can actually suck on them, and it tastes like honey.
Is that
Is
what
it
they call
honey? No, it's just supposed to taste like honey. But then the hawthorn spray is just this leaf that comes out, and it's just called a hawthorn spray. Rose.
Okay, so you know how it's like under this loop of honeysuckle, a
Yes.
creeping colored caterpillar?
I'm with you so far.
So it makes it sound like the person's looking at a colored caterpillar, but then it switches to eye.
Yes.
So does it mean the caterpillar is eating the leaves, or whoever's describing the caterpillar?
Which one would you think would make more sense?
Well, I think the caterpillar were, but in poems, like, sometimes, like, the animals are talking, so maybe it's, like, another caterpillar is describing your caterpillar, or, like, some weird animal that eats leaves is describing this caterpillar. Like, you never know.
Alright, so with that idea, who would we guess the speaker of the poem is that is talking to us when it says, I know the fresh green hawthorn spray, I nibble it leaf by leaf away? Shorty?
The caterpillar.
That'd be my guess. The caterpillar. He's hanging out there doing caterpillar-y type things. Because it's supposed to be all artistry. If you can imagine like a movie starting off where it's like zooming in, you see like the caterpillar, and he's like sitting there eating, and all of a sudden like it zooms in, like it comes into like the caterpillar's viewpoint. See, it's starting off seeing the caterpillar, and then all of a sudden you become the caterpillar.
But then when did it say that?
It did.
No, I mean...
It's a poem! It had 4 lines to work that in. That was his art. Yes. They cut that line out. It was in the director's cut. So also we have the caterpillar as the speaker, but the caterpillar also has a hobby so far he keeps doing. And Rachel, what is the caterpillar's hobby he's doing? That's all he's doing. Nom 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 nom. He's just sitting there eating. Abby
I
Q.
know who the caterpillar is.
It's
I
the
know, but
caterpillar.
like, I know.
Still just the caterpillar.
Is that blue caterpillar from Alice in Wonderland?
Still not, just a caterpillar. Just that caterpillar.
It's
No,
not.
ants.
Yep,
Ants life.
yep, still just that
Or the
caterpillar.
very hungry caterpillar.
Yes!
The very hungry
Yep,
caterpillar.
still just that caterpillar.
That's what it is.
And then we go to stanza 2.
There's a
That's
picture.
kind of
The idea
frightening.
of a caterpillar
I know,
doesn't sound like a word anymore.
It's gone.
I know, it's the magic of going to a new screen for
You know what
special children. Wegger will have you read stanza 2, and then just to bother Elf, I'll read it again. And then we're going to figure out that there's apparently dangers in Caterpillar Town. And so we have to figure out what scary things are happening.
Down beneath grow dandelions, daisies, old man's looking glasses, rooks flap croaking across the lane, I eat and swallow and eat again.
Down beneath grow dandelions, daisies, old man's looking glasses, rooks flap croaking across the lane, I eat and swallow and eat again. Well, before we get into the rest of it, why did I suddenly become a fancy British lad and actually pronounce the last word as again? When I went, I eat and swallow and eat again, as opposed to again. And it is because I am slightly fancy, but that's not the actual answer. Michaela?
It rhymes with lane.
Nicely done. Because as we're going to figure out the rhyme scheme, you have the lane and again, so it has to match up. So you can't be eat across the lane, eat again.
Couldn't
Just
it be
doesn't
a
match up.
space?
Just like if it had been this line first, if it said I eat and swallow and eat again, rooks float croaking across the linn, you'd have to make sure it matches up one way or the other. First off, down below our hawthorn spray, we have clues that there are things below us. May, what is below our hawthorn spray?
Dandelion.
What's a dandelion?
The
Yes.
hours, like weed type thing.
Nicely done. Now, I found out that apparently this blows kids' minds. This is a dandelion. It's also the same one that turns into the white puffball that you can go and then go everywhere. It's the same thing.
That's why you should blow on
that?
them. It's
See?
literally
That.
everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
That's why
Weeds.
sometimes you'll see half
Oh, I
closed.
hate those.
It'll be closed like half yellow and half white fluffy things because when it's time for them to go and pollinate other yards, they close up overnight and the next morning they open up and it's the puffball. And that way this wind comes and picks up the seeds.
time lapse.
holder.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I realized I would introduce that, because I had
camera out there all night.
kids that
like
would just
a
talk
GoPro.
and lose points because they were just slow figuring stuff out. Because I figured out that some kids didn't realize those were the same dandelions. So there's your educational takeaway for today, that when you go around and you're picking up those little white things and going poof and blowing them everywhere, and then you're wondering why the yellow flowers pop up, you're like, it's like magic. No, it's the same thing. May, good job. We have dandelions. What else?
The daisies,
What's a daisy?
a flower.
Nicely done.
A flower.
An actual flower, yeah, you can't blow on those, nothing happens. But you can figure out if someone loves you or not. Those are the ones where you go, he loves me, he loves me, he loves me, I'm just crazy.
I
Just
got
the same flower that you go around. Now,
I just pick him up anyway.
here's where it gets tricky, May. What else is there?
An old man's looking glass.
Now, here's the trick. Here's where we have to use our ability to analyze a poem to figure out things we don't know. That is not an actual stumbly person who dropped things that they look out of. That's a reference to something. Oh, Mr. Brovicast, that's going to require thinking. I know. That's why I'm going to help you. So here's May with her abilities. May, what was the first thing down there?
Wait, dandelion?
Good, and that's a type of
Weed?
plant. Good job. And what was the second thing?
Daisies?
That's a type of
Flower?
plant. Good job. What's the third thing?
It says old man's looking.
Good job. So that would be a type of... Good job, Jackson. See how they're giving you plant, plant, plant. So that's we have to use those clues to figure out it does not mean someone stumbled and like some old guy was just like, I don't need to see it, and threw it down. You have to use those clues to figure it out. That was our ability of using the poem to figure stuff out. We're going to get there
Wait,
next.
do you have
Don't
a
you worry.
plan up there?
I did not. I couldn't find a good picture of them, so you'd have to just use your imagination. Let's see, the daisies. Oh man. Next up, when it says the rooks flap croaking across the lane. Once again, here's where you get to use your ability to analyze the poem. Because coming up on Friday, you're going to get a poem you've never seen before that you're going to have to analyze all on your own for the quiz, and it's going to be scary. So I'm trying to train you how to do it here. What clues would you have to figure out what a rook is if you've never heard it before? Yeah, you can take off here. Go help the cripple. Thistle?
Plant.
Why do you say plant?
Because all the other ones are plants.
Not bad. The problem is we know that this rook does two things. What two things does the rook do?
Croak.
It croaks and it
Frog.
and one other thing,
Flap.
flaps. So it flaps
Bird.
and it croaks. So now all of a sudden you're like, probably not a plant. And you're like, it's a frog, except for the flapping. Well, if you threw it really high. So using all of the clues together,
It's a type of bird.
why do you say bird?
Because it can.
Okay.
It's a frog.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but you seem to have lost your confidence.
Oh. Because they're all saying no.
I want you to be strong. I'm curious about the haters.
It's croaking and flying.
All right. Rose seems to be intimidating you. Rose?
Oh my.
Well, back to like my theory that it's not them talking. So what if it was like a butterfly?
Oh, sorry, I'm not there. Chloe?
It could be a fish.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I meant to say York.
It could be like a dog that like ate a frog, but now it's choking on it, so it's like
I mispronounced it. I meant to say Adam.
It's a grasshopper.
Why a grasshopper?
Because they flap if you don't.
They
They
don't
have little
fly.
wings.
Do that, yeah. And
Do they croak?
they make noises
They do
that
make
are
noises.
supposed to be called
But they don't fly.
That's not bad. Much better than the previous three. I
Well, I'm a bad guesser, but I'm gonna say a bird because birds flap their wings so they can fly and stuff, and they also make sounds.
Oh, I was right.
They do. It's a type of crow. It's like a crow or a raven. So that's where you have
Hey, I was close.
the croaking and the flapping and using all the evidence together. I told you, you just had to be confident and not listen to the naysayers who are
I
hitting
got
on
it
you.
right.
Well, right-ish until you back down. So next
They were
time, be
like,
strong.
No, it's a fish.
And who was right?
Hey,
And
I
who
didn't
was
say
dumb?
that. Her.
So be stronger next time.
Okay.
But here, wait, going back to, not this kid. Parker, who would be the speaker in the poem? we already, good job. That's why I didn't call on her. The caterpillar. Now, most smart caterpillars, when the bird shows up, what would the smart caterpillars do?
Run.
Why?
Because they're scared.
Why?
Because they'll eat them.
Because caterpillars eat birds?
The birds eat the caterpillars.
Nicely done. So most of them will run and hide. Does our caterpillar run and hide?
No.
What does he do?
Eat and swallows and ants.
So when the bird goes by, he sits there and goes nom 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 and just keeps on eating and shakes his little caterpillar fists up there at the sky.
Oh, so
Now,
the bird doesn't.
the question becomes, is it because he's brave or because he's stupid? We don't know. There's a fine line between the two, but that's where more poem comes in. Jackson?
Wouldn't there be no point of hiding because those things are so slow, they don't have enough time to hide?
They can blend in with the leaves.
Oh.
Yeah, camouflage.
Is this other poem we just did have to do with this thing?
I mean, do you want me to
No,
the
the
sentence?
bird just
You
really
mean the sentence that talks about the brave caterpillar?
Yeah. It's
Weird,
just
who saw that coming?
It's like,
This
oh,
guy.
let's go eat something.
Now,
caterpillar brave.
I don't know yet, we're going to find out. Now, what you guys are discovering is something that my other classes have, because now we're finally far enough into the year where you guys have done this thing called showing personality, which you've not done for the previous 4 weeks, where when you make the choice of asking questions that aren't quite accurate, I don't call on you again. So that's when you raise your hand. You can keep it up for as long as you want, but once you ask, or you could just talk out loud and lose the points. And so this is where learning comes in. But Mr. Broviak, learning is painful. Yes, it will be. Also, when you just decide to yell out loud and go back and forth, you cause me to get involved. And then when I get involved, I have to charge you points. But being educated is exciting. I feel the same way. Tomorrow, we're going to learn more about our caterpillar and more about how not to make bad choices and have Mr. Broviak go all evil on us. And hopefully we'll get to start over getting to call on some of you who weren't going to get called on again today. What day do you guys have to bring your tech?
Thursday.
What day is our quiz?
Thursday.
Friday. And what day are you getting homework assigned?
Thursday.
You're all scary.